Welcome to week 2. Can you imagine someone like your father telling you that he is the Alpha and Omega? You probably look at him like he was crazy, right? Wondering what in the world he is talking about. After getting the confusion and curiosity out of the way and resonating on the words Alpha and Omega, what comes to mind is the beginning of all things, the end of all things, and everything in the middle, right? Here's that word all again. All really does mean all. Remember when Jesus says he is the Alpha and Omega? This profound statement of his divine nature and eternal existence appears in the book of Revelations, chapter 1, verse 8, chapter 21, verse 6, and chapter 22, verse 13, and can be understood from several key perspectives. One perspective is the theological perspective. Here are 2 words, divine eternity. Let's discuss this. Divine eternity refers to the concept in theology and philosophy that God exists beyond the constraints of time and is not subject to temporal change. It encompasses several key ideas. Idea number 1 is timelessness. God exists outside of time and does not experience past, present, or future. All moments are equally present to God. Idea number 2 is everlastingness. Some will argue that God exists within time but has no beginning nor end, experiencing all moments in an unending sequence. This perspective maintains that God is temporarily infinite, but still engages with temporal events. Mind-boggling, right? Try not to lean onto my own understanding, as we are instructed. Idea number 3 is immutability. Divine eternity is closely linked to God's immutability, the idea that God's nature and knowledge do not change over time. Since God's existence outside time, God's knowledge and essence remains constant. Idea number 4 is omniscience. God's eternal nature implies perfect knowledge of all temporal events. Whether God is timeless or everlasting, divine eternity entails that God fully comprehends every aspect of the temporal world. As a side note, whenever speaking of the temporal world, I'm speaking of everything that experiences change, growth, decay, and succession from moments from past to present to future. In essence, divine eternity speaks to express how God relates to time and how this impacts God's nature and interacts with the universe. The exact nature of divine eternity is a topic of significant philosophical and theological debate, with different traditions offering various interpretations. So, I feel as if I've encompassed enough without losing the message. So let's move on. Jesus' declaration that he is the Alpha and Omega signifies that he is eternal, existing from beginning of time to the end. Alpha and Omega are the first and last letters of the Greek alphabet, symbolizing completeness and totality. This means that Jesus is the beginning and the end of all things. Everything that I've said leads me to the 5th idea, which is sovereignty, no doubt. This emphasizes his sovereignty over all creation. As the Alpha and Omega, Jesus is involved in every aspect of the universe's existence, from creation to consumption, which is the act of bringing something into its completion or final stage. Consummation. Another perspective is the Christological perspective, which is the divinity of Christ. This statement affirms the divinity of Jesus. We know that in Christian doctrine, Jesus is considered one with God the Father, sharing in the same eternal nature. Claiming this title, Jesus is asserting his divine identity and his unity with God. This is what's called Malaic fulfillment. Jesus is/was the fulfillment of Old Testament prophecies and the culmination of God's redemptive plan. He is the promised Messiah who brings God's plan to completion. A third perspective is the literary and symbolic perspective. The book of Revelation is a piece of apocalyptic literature which often uses symbolic language to convey deep theological truths, right? The phrase Alpha and Omega is a powerful metaphor for Jesus' comprehensive authority and the ultimate completion of God's purpose through him. If you read the book of Revelations, some have tried but got confused or did not understand due to the metaphoric tone you would see. The repetition of Alpha and Omega at the beginning and end of the book of Revelations serves as a literary device that frames the entire narrative and emphasizes the theme of God's eternal nature and sovereignty. The fourth perspective is the physiological and existential perspective. Jesus' claim can be seen as a declaration of ultimate reality. He is not just a part of the story, but the entire narrative of existence itself, encompassing all time and space. For believers, this statement provides a profound sense of purpose and meaning. Jesus, as the Alpha and Omega, implies that all life and history are directed and sustained by him, giving coherence and direction to the believer's faith in life. So let's summarize. When Jesus says he is the Alpha and Omega, it is a declaration of his eternal and sovereign nature, affirming his divinity and central role in the cosmos and in God's redemptive plan. This statement is rich with theological, literary, and existential significance, providing a comprehensive view of Jesus as both the beginning and the end of all things. Amen. Finding comfort in knowing Jesus is the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, can be deeply reassuring for several reasons. Number 1, divine sovereignty. Knowing Jesus is the Alpha and Omega reinforces the belief that he has ultimate control and authority over all things. This can bring comfort in times of uncertainty as believers trust that our Father oversees the entire course of history in our personal lives. Number 2, eternal patience. The idea that Jesus spans all of time means he is eternally present. For believers, this implies that our Father is always with us, offering guidance, support, and comfort throughout our lives. Number 3, purpose and meaning. Recognizing Jesus as the beginning and the end helps us find meaning and purpose in our existence. It assures us that our lives are a part of a large divine plan orchestrated by our Father, who is guiding us towards a purposeful end. Number 4, assurance of salvation. Knowing Jesus as the Alpha and Omega provides assurance of the completion of our Father's plan for salvation. We can find comfort in the promise that Jesus, who began the good work in us, will bring it to completion. Hope for the future is number 5. The belief in Jesus as the Omega, the end, gives hope that there will be a final victorious conclusion to all struggles and suffering. This hope assures believers of a future where justice, peace, and love prevail. Number 6, unchanging nature. The title of Alpha and Omega underscores Jesus' unchanging nature. In a world full of change and instability, Jesus offers a reliable foundation on which we can depend. So, thank you, Abba Father, for providing us a framework for understanding life, instilling hope, trust, and a sense of divine presence and purpose. Happy Father's Day, Abba Father. This week, I want us to reflect and remember God has been there from the beginning and will remain forever. He sees the big picture. When you meditate and pray over this, think about how can your prayers reflect on this part of God's character today. So for your study at home, please read John chapter 1, verse 1, Revelations chapter 1, verses 8, 11, and 17, Revelations chapter 21, verse 6, and Revelations chapter 22, verse 13. Thank you. Bye.